Okay, so Love and Marriage Detroit, season 1, episode 9. Okay, Christina decided to sit next to Latoya on purpose because she wanted to be in her face. Fine. Um, Brandon and Anthony came to like a no agreement, agree to disagree. Let me tell you something about Brandon. With each passing episode, you are a man that needs to learn how to be assertive and to not back down. This is getting out of hand. So why is it that Anthony keeps coming at you? Because he asked this question. He says, him and Christina are talking, and he says that, do I feel like Anthony just keeps coming at me or whatever? And Anthony is like coming at me just like you feel that Latoya is coming at you. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Latoya and I honestly don't think that Latoya and Anthony sit around thinking about ways to go after Brandon and Christina. I think that Christina is intimidated by Latoya, and I think that Brandon can't stand up for himself. So you say something, but I don't take you seriously because you waver. Now, do I think that Anthony is a good friend? Absolutely not. But I'm gonna proceed. Sean, okay, so Christina goes in this whole conversation about how Sean, that's how she knows Lyric and her have worked together, but they're not anymore. They're not friends anymore, specifically because Sean liked her. And so she was trying to give him space because she didn't want him to think that she didn't want him to get an impression that there's something more to them. Right. So the last night they eat and they had a chef. Christina has this game, it's called a situation box. They write index cards and they write out a situation. They read it out loud to start a convo. So Latoya reads the first one and she asks the questions like, how do husbands want wives to initiate sex? The men all talking about how they want women to start it. It's a turn on. Brandon says, I speak for all men but Russell because Russell has a lot going on for himself. I just, okay. The ladies go to a bond. Russell eventually, we don't see the rest of the game. Russell is ready to go to bed. The ladies go to a bonfire. Outside, Christina asks Latoya that there's an issue between her, that they seem to have some issues between them. And Latoya's like, Latoya explains to her that she sees how she operates with other people, how she operates, even, and she specifically states, even though it has nothing to do with me, I see how you operate with other people. I don't like it. That's the translation of what Latoya says. Latoya is really saying to you, you claim to be a friend. And I'm going to say this consistently. You claim to be a friend, and I am this person. I am Latoya in the sense that when you screw over my friend, especially my sorority sister, especially someone I look to as like a little sister, I am not rocking with you. I may have to rock with you to keep this show going, but I am going to keep you at arm's length. There, we will not be cool, cool, because I see how you operate and move. And thus, we're not going, and you and Latoya, you and Kobe may be as thick as thieves afterwards, but I see how you operate and I know you're going to change in 2.2 seconds, and I'm not going to deal with it. And Kobe is probably not going to rock with you as much because, again, they're going to take a side. They're sorority sisters. We're going to take a side. And it is clear that they operate in that same space. Latoya is going to vie for Kobe. Kobe's going to vie for Latoya. And yes, Christina, you are the odd woman out, not because you have has nothing to do with your lack of degrees. It has 100% the fact that you crossed one sorority sister and here we are. So you're going to always be the odd person out on this. And I am over. And so I think Latoya was doing the nicest way possible by saying, I see how you communicate with other people. What you say and what you do not coincide, and I don't want no parts. Oh, and then she does the whole, we can move on because, this is a TV show. We can work it out. It's called a TV show. Um, Christina is like, this sounds like a judgment. You're not giving me the benefit of the doubt. I mean, at this point, Christina, it feels like I need a poster and I need to draw pictures. Because see, I understand when people says that this is seems to be very childish. I get what people are saying because it does seem to be childish to some of y'all. Um, I disagree. I don't think it's childish. I think that when people show who they are, you believe them, you act accordingly. I don't have to not be your friend, but I know I'm not going to be close to you. I can have a disagreement with you and I see how you operate. Me and you may disagree on something, but I'm not going to get to the point where we're not going to not be friends because I understand where we have a sense of disagreement. With Christina, it's hard to see commonality with somebody where you absolutely can visually see this woman lacks some strong character flaws that we are going to have a problem with moving forward. I am going to have a problem with being around a liar. And thus, here we are. So, um, and I mean, no one's going to say, yes, I'm a liar. So Latoya pretty much was like, I'm dead in it. Okay. Bravo invited Marceau to contribute to this male movement. Honestly, it's up Marceau's alley, so I'm not even surprised on that. Brandon visits mom, and they make this cherry chip cake. I want more information about the cake. My daughter was like, so what is that? And then it looks like a vanilla cake. I hope it's a vanilla cake because a mint cake. Anyway, they don't communicate with each other. And he wants to communicate with his mother more. And they do this whole, I know it had to be hard for you to be growing up in the hood. It was hard for me to grow up in the hood. The white mom, she's like, it was hard for me to live in the hood being a white woman. Anyway, mom was like, look, I'll go to therapy, but I want it to not be a thing. Like, I don't feel like having to take on one more thing. Like I love seniors because they tell it like it is. Like they have no filter. The filter is, okay, look, if I go to therapy with you, I just want you to know this is not going to be a common occurrence. My mentor, I love her to death. She goes, when her daughter was going through therapy, she was like, you not fixed yet? Oh my gosh. When she was paying for now the woman's old enough to where she pays for her own therapy sessions, but she was like, I'm still paying for your therapy for you to get over your daddy issues. And she's like, are you not over that yet? I'm gonna need you to, when's the end date? It was hilarious. Anyway, She's like, look, if it's one more thing that I have to do on my day, I'm not in for it. So there needs to be an endpoint. So she's like, look, uh, okay, I don't get the cake. Anyway, so the men's movement, they have no umbrella. So here's the thing. I think it's very appropriate to dead this men's movement when I think it's a very important thing to dead this men's movement. Yes, when it's pouring down raining and you have a thing to walk to. I don't okay. I'm not Brandon when I want to act woefully ignorant on what the purpose of the men's movement is and if they should have signs or stuff like that. I do think that Anthony's planning of this man's movement is trash. And I think that there should be some community building, having some men activities, having like an outline of activities, and this being one of them to kind of launch and then kind of be informational. Like, I mean, there are things that you should have done. Just walking down the street made no sense. The fact that they standing inside of a room that could hold easily like 100 to 150 people and there's only 20. I mean, it looked pathetic and sad. Um, so I was like, no chairs, no setup. This is it. Um, you handed out a piece of paper. Like, this is trash. But I appreciate the sentiment. And Kobe was like, what you can't, you have lack of reading comprehension skills as to why. Then they walk down the street. And I'm just like, we're walking. So he's all, so I mean, yes, Brandon is negative Nancy throughout the whole entire thing, where he's like, look, you could have some signs, like, what are we doing while we're walking? Like, what is going on? I I I don't think that I understand what the purpose is. I don't think it was well executed. And honestly, to me, this could be like a fraternity thing. Why didn't you hook up with a fraternity? And you can't tell me that there are no frats in Detroit. Like, stop. Anywho, and this is the benefit of having women around. Anyway, his joke was like, this is not a mint. This is a mint, not a move. And then he said it twice. I was like, dude, you can only have one time to say the joke. The second time, you look suspicious. Okay. Anyway, the march was trash. I gave him an A for effort, though. Therapy was pathetic. So Brandon wants more communication. His mom was like, look, I tried to communicate with you. You sucked your thumb and turned around. And he's like, well, how old was I when I was sucking my thumb? Oh, you could have been 8. You could have been younger. She was like, look, that set the tone. I'm not being bothered with you no more. I said, now wait a second, ma'am. That was cold blooded. She's like, look, what you did to me 30 years ago set the tone. I'm done. I'm doing the basic. I thought it was funny. But he's about to cry. He looks like he's forcing a cry. But I'm gonna say this. On the next week's episode. See, I was all in to be upset with Anthony about this lyric thing. All the way up until I saw the preview. And when you see the preview and Lyric comes in, and then you have Christina, who is willing to have a full-on conversation with Lyric talking about, I want to get back in the studio. We can get back to business. I'm sorry. You know that your husband doesn't rock with him. And your husband does this for a living. And you don't want to turn to him and be like, I want to do business with you. Put me in the studio. You're going to go with Lyric and have him put you in the studio. And then when your husband comes up, you're going to sit here and say, let this grown man, Larique, that you want to do business with, that you automatically know that likes you, right? That's the reason why you broke up the relationship before. And you're going to tell him, Larique is going to tell your husband that you were here first. And you are okay with this dialogue. I'm sorry. Did I miss something? I must have missed something. Did you miss something? I must have missed something. The level of disrespect. I wish that I would treat my husband this way, that I would let some dude that I used to do business with come up and talk to my husband, talking about I was here. He was here first. And I'm like, hold the phone. First of all, I would not do business with someone that my husband has such a visceral response against. That's not even a conversation piece. I would say hi to them. How are you doing? That's great because I'm going to be cordial and I'm going to keep it pushing. I would not even have the capacity to be like, oh, yes, we could do business together. We can't do business together. You know why? Because my husband doesn't like you. And then when he says, he turns and says this, and then Brennan's going to sit there like boo boo the fool, and then she's not going to stand up. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I can't even describe what's happening here because this is so. My husband would not do that. He would not be looking. He'd be looking at me like I've lost my mind. Because even though he'd handle himself in the moment, but then he would turn and look at me like, "You're not gonna say something." Because I absolutely would say something. I'd be like, no, you have lost your mind if you think that this is okay. So, Brandon, sir, you are a very weak man. And I'm going to need you not to be blaming this on your mother. You need to find your manhood somewhere because it is non existent. You cannot keep letting people walk over you this way. This is so unacceptable. Like I said, I was so I wasn't team Brandon, but I was so like, Anthony, you're wrong for this until I saw Christina and I was like, well, then heck, Christina's willing to do business with somebody that her husband doesn't F with. And I'm flabbergasted. I really am. I have no words left to say. With that being said, since I have no words, we shall see how this goes next week. It looks like there's going to be more than 20 people that show up to the event next week. So that's a positive. And on that note, I'll send you adieu. Bye.